Got it. Okay.
Hello, Stewart. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Nizam. How are you?
I'm fine too, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to interview you.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, so friends, we have Stewart here. Stewart Hamlin is a former lawyer turned movement specialist based in the United Kingdom. After 20 years in the law, he gave up a successful career as a barrister specializing in criminal law after being involved in an accident in his 30s that led to a fascination with how movement can be used rehabilitatively to help people lead better lives. His passion is the Feldenkrias method, a form of movement re-education which he teaches in person and through his YouTube channel to students throughout the world, including India. On a one-to-one basis, he works with adults and children with special needs to meet their movement milestones. He is also the creator of the FitSit program and the author of the FitSit Revolution, functional fitness for the over 50s. That's wonderful to know about you. Yeah. So how come this transition from a lawyer, that to criminal lawyer, okay?
Yeah.
Criminal
So
lawyer to movement.
yeah, so Nizam, I'll try and give you the short answer because I could talk about it all day. But essentially, I was living and working in London as a barrister, specialising in criminal law. And in my mid-30s, I was a day free, and I was in Hampstead, a part of London, and I was waiting to cross a road. And as I was waiting to cross the road, a van cut the corner and ran over my foot, my right foot. And the van didn't stop, and it hurt like hell, to be honest. It really did. And but I was still, I could still walk in a fashion. And I went anyway to see a doctor because the pain was so intense. And the doctor said, oh, it's a toe. There's nothing that can be done about it. Go away. In 6 weeks' time, it will heal itself. And I suppose at that stage of my life, if a doctor told me something, I accepted it as gospel, really. And so I went away. And after 6 weeks, the pain, the bruising had gone away, but the pain hadn't. But because a doctor had said to me, oh, there's nothing you can be done about it, I thought I just had to accept it. And really, I began to shut it out of my mind. And then about 6 months later, I woke up one morning and my knee, my right knee, was the size of a very large football, and I couldn't get out of bed. So I had to, had to call a taxi to take me to a hospital, and then followed about a year of tests and seeing specialists about my knee, looking to see what was wrong with my knee. And it was very interesting. Each specialist had their own answer as to what was wrong with my knee. And then eventually it was decided that really no one knew precisely what had caused this. So they sent me for an MRI to have it examined. And then they decided to operate on my knee. And I can remember saying when I was being prepared for the surgery, if you're going to cut me open to look at my knee, would someone please have a look at my toe? For the first time, this is about 2.5 years after the original incident, they x-rayed my foot, and it showed very plainly that there was a bone that had been fractured. And as a consequence, they thought it was pressing on a nerve. And every time, therefore, I took a step, I was doing whatever I could to avoid bringing weight to bear into this toe. And just as your fingers are connected to your elbow, so your toes are connected to your knee and into your hip joint.
Mm.
And in fact, the surgery showed there was nothing really wrong with my knee, but I was walking, my foot was like a clenched fist, and it had put a twist into my knee. And I had developed this whole compensatory gait. The nervous system is so clever, really. We do everything to avoid bringing ourselves into pain. And the day after the operation, it was a very simple fix on my toe. I can remember waking up the day after the surgery, and this pain that I'd been living with for about 3 years suddenly wasn't there. And it was just remarkable. I was so lucky, really, that the source of the pain had been addressed. But you can imagine that because of this habit of walking in a funny way, it had caused me all to bring my life over onto my left-hand side. My back had changed, my walking had changed, everything had changed. And I then just became kind of fascinated, really, with why so many doctors, specialists, and I'm not disrespecting their expertise at all, but so many people nobody had really the answer for my knee. And I now know that if you had looked properly at my movement, it would have been obvious that I was walking in a way that was avoiding using that foot. But when I went to see the experts, they were so focused on my knee, looking at really a symptom as opposed to what may have been the potential cause. And so I just became fascinated, really, and that led initially, I began to get interested in Pilates and yoga, and studied those. And became qualified as teachers of Pilates and yoga. And then it was later, and I was thinking, I enjoyed being a lawyer, but this seemed to me much more fundamental, how we move, because in my 30s, one stage I was walking with a stick. I was really walking like a 90-year-old man, and so I began to get interested in movement. And then it was actually during a yoga class that a teacher gave me an adjustment, a strong adjustment that really injured my back. And I could barely get off the floor, actually. And I remembered that in London, I'd been to these Feldenkrias classes, only one or two. And to be honest, every time I went to one of these classes, I fell asleep because I was being told to do things slowly, not going into pain. And I was still busy working as a lawyer and stuff like that. And I thought, well, this is not for me. But then when I was injured with the back, I was Googling and came across a book by a Feldenkrais practitioner. So I ordered it. And suddenly these little movements that I was being invited to do suddenly made sense. It was teaching me things that I hadn't really been taught before. And within a day, my back was a lot better. Wow. And so I became and I became fascinated then by Feldenkrais, and was lucky enough to go on a workshop in Paris for 2 weeks to study it, and then decided, okay, this is what I need to learn. Okay. And the reason why, for me, Feldenkrais is so fascinating is, as much as I love Pilates and as much as I love yoga, and I should say as taught in the West, not it's different often to how it's taught, obviously, in India, because in the West it's very much focused on the physical kind of asana practice. Feldenkrais is very much about how we organize in gravity. And if you think about it, our relationship with gravity is the most important non-human relationship we have. If we don't have a good relationship with gravity, we fail and we begin to age badly. Whereas if we have a good relationship with gravity, then we are able to keep our independence. And so what the I'm taking a long time to answer your question. What the
No,
Feldenkrais is
please,
of,
please.
yeah.
I,
So what,
this is
yeah,
all about your journey. Yes.
yeah, yeah. And for me, what I do as a Feldenkrais practitioner is I look at how is a person habitually organizing themselves, and often they don't know that they're doing something. So it's not a question of helping them through lots and lots of exercise or saying you've got to do this 50 times, 3 times a day, forever if you want to get better. It's really by showing them, did you know that you're always over here on the left-hand side? And did you know that actually you could come over onto this side? So to give you a very practical example, people often come to me and say, I've got a stiff neck and I can't reverse in my car. I can't, my neck is very stiff. But when you look at their movement, the only thing that isn't stiff is their neck. It's moving. It's everything below that isn't moving.
Okay.
And as crazy as it sounds, people forget that if they want to look around themselves, they can choose just to do it here, or I can begin to involve my knees, my pelvis, my back and my ribs and my spine in such a simple activity. To give you another example, if I ask a person, could you show me how you bring your weight onto one buttock or to one side? What they'll often do is this. Okay. They'll tilt, so their spine is moving like a stick, and they'll lift the other foot, they'll clench their jaw, and they forget that actually to shift their weight from side to side, they can use their pelvis and the ribs and their spine to do that. So by helping a person to realize, this is the way you're thinking about your movement. This for you is turning or looking up and down, whereas actually you have another choice. And the thing is, Nizam, for me, it's endlessly fascinating, and why I love working with children is with children that you as a child, anyone as a child, learns to move in harmony with gravity. And that's partly because a child's head is so big in relationship to the rest of their body, they have to learn to move effortlessly. And the children with special needs that I work with, often they can't do that for whatever reason. It might be genetics or spasticity, and they find another way to do it. So, but the problem with that with adults is often they're having the same problem, but they say, it's because I'm getting old. But it really, for me, has very little to do with the person's age, but with how they're thinking about their movement. So if you can help a person to realize, there is an easier way of doing something, then the results can be remarkably rapid, really. And, yeah. Okay. I feel I should stop talking. I've been talking a lot.
No, that's fine. Now I understood about your story and about your journey and what you do. Again, my question is here, Stewart, that what exactly is this Feldenkrais method all about, and how is it beneficial? Of course, all I got the context is about our body posture and adjustments. Will please give a bit about its history, development, and benefit?
Yeah, so I mean, Feldenkrais is about many things, but I suppose the way I would summarize it is really about how can you help a person to live better in the world. Okay. And Feldenkrais, he was a great student of psychotherapy, great student of Freud, hypnosis too. His master's thesis was on hypnosis. He believed that whereas say other modalities helped a person through addressing their mind, through counseling, that kind of thing, he believed that the fastest way of helping a person to change, to improve their functioning, was by using movement to do that. Yeah, that was his thinking, and that's why he used movement, because it's a very concrete way of getting a person to pay attention to themselves. The method is taught in two ways. One is in a group class setting, rather like a yoga class. You have lots of people in the room, and that's what happens in the workshops, where I will talk to a person, and the theme might be the use of their arms, the use of their head, the use of their jaw or their back. And the other way of working with people was through one-to-one sessions, where you use your hands instead of talking, really, to communicate movement to a person. So particularly I work with babies, because obviously you can't talk to a baby and say, move your arm in this way. So you have to be able to show them through touch, this is what it feels like to roll effortlessly, or this is what it feels like to come onto your back effortlessly. Yeah, so that's in a nutshell, I suppose, what it's about. But it might be something about how to help a person take a fuller breath, a deeper breath. Often people get into a certain habit of breathing, with their shoulders. And so it could be anything. It might be like helping a person to get down onto the floor, come up, how to improve their walking, how to improve their balance. But the unifying theme behind it is really this: most of us live in the world without realizing the effects of gravity until it's knocking us down, causing us to fail. For me, the unifying theme is, how do you help a person organize in gravity so they can live as independently as possible, whatever their age.
Okay, wonderful. So, that was my next question, that is this method beneficial for even the aged people, and you have already answered it.
Yeah. My oldest student was 105. And I absolutely love working with the older generation, because, as I've said, all too often people think a difficulty with their knees or with their shoulder or their neck is because they're getting old. You can very quickly help a person in their 70s, 80s or 90s to change the way they're moving. Again, not because they have to do lots and lots of tedious exercises, but by changing their thinking about something. And the reason I developed the FitSit method, which is really an application of Feldenkrias, I was being asked to work. Some of my students asked me to help their mothers or their fathers, and one lady in particular is in her late 80s. And she had had a hip replacement and a knee replacement. So it wasn't easy for her to get down onto the floor. Yeah. And so I work in a chair, which is a great way of helping a person to improve their movement. Okay. Because if you can't move well in a chair, you won't move well in standing, and you won't move well on the floor. And it just bless you. It just so happened that it coincided with the lockdowns, and it was a great way of helping a person to improve their movement while sitting at a chair. Yeah.
A lot of people started working online, and their entire work is sitting. So,
Yeah. And you see a lot of stuff is said about how sitting is bad for you. And how you need a special chair, to make your back better or to help you. But for me, it's not so much the chair, that the type of chair is important. I just have a very simple wooden chair.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's what you're doing in the chair that's important. So if for example, I'm always sitting slumped in my chair, and then I'm reaching for my coffee or tea or my computer, and I'm not using my back to move or my spine, then you're going to have difficulties for sure. But it's not so much because of the chair, it's because of the way the person is not moving in the chair. Okay. See, what happens is an infant, if they reach for something, so it might be a cup of tea, but an infant wouldn't reach for a cup of tea, but they're reaching for the toy. What they do is they put a hand down and they cross their midline and then bring the object to them. Adults don't do that. They try and lift the arm, and they're working from here. They're trying to lift and bring something to them, and they try to lift their arms, whereas actually your arms begin with your spine and with your pelvis. So here I'm moving my arms, but I'm not lifting them like a puppet. I'm supporting them with everything, with my pelvis and my spine, and that's what I mean about moving in a way that is in harmony with gravity. This is trying to fight gravity. I'm trying to lift something, whereas what I want to do is move in a way that it's my friend. Yeah. Yeah.
So I wouldn't reach out to my pen like this. Let me go and
yeah. Or yes, you involve your back and your spine and your pelvis. So again, as someone with your background will appreciate. So Feldenkrais said in one of his books, I think it was Body and Mature Behavior, is we tend to live our lives, and this was very much me as a lawyer, as if we live here in these 3 inches above our, behind our eyes. This is where we locate our sense of being. And what Feldenkrais and what yoga is about is bringing your sense of being down so that your center of being is located right at the base of your spine, so that when I do a movement or anything, instead of me thinking this, I'm here and everything down there is an accident, I bring my sense of awareness of myself down to include the whole of myself. Yeah.
Excellent. And Stewart, in the when I was going through your profile, you work with children with special needs. You also do one-to-one sessions to help people. And glad to know that your oldest participant was 105 years.
Yeah.
And do you train other practitioners, therapists also with your system of this fit set or any other modalities to help their clients in return?
I helped to organise a training here in the UK for parents of special needs children, but I'm not a teacher to teach other people to become Feldenkrais practitioners. So that's partly because of my age. To be that, I'm nearly 60, and to be able to do that, I think I'd need another 30 years to be able to do that. So my interest is more working with
one-to-one.
No, I love group classes. And the workshops I've taught in India were in person or through Zoom. I love working with groups. It's just to train people to be teachers of the method. That involves a whole another thing. And I like to work with normal people.
Okay.
I like to work with normal people.
Normal. Wonderful. So, yeah, people who want to have personal consultation and other stuff, I will give the reference of your Facebook link and other social media links and websites and all that, so that they can have. Can one more question, Stuart? Like people who have association with special needs and all that, they can reach out to you so that their children can be benefited and all that stuff, Stuart?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if you don't mind me just mentioning, what's so fascinating with the children with special needs, for example, is at a very young age. So say a child has got a condition called cerebral palsy, which often means they have spasticity in their limbs, for example, is they will try to learn to move, but they don't get the same experiences as a neurotypical child. So for example, the example I gave you of reaching for a toy, a child with spasticity will often try and throw out an arm as they're reaching for the toy forward to try. And that's them actually being very clever, trying to balance using the other arm as a way of controlling their movement. Okay. And so often you can begin to come in and show a child, actually you don't need to do that. You can do it through other movements of using their spine and their pelvis. So to answer your question, so I have if someone's interested, I suppose the first thing I'd say is maybe look at my YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. I've got lots and lots of free materials and lessons on there. And my YouTube channel is Stuart Hamblin, The Feldenkrias Way. I have a website, stuarthamblin.co.uk. My Facebook profile is Stuart Hamblin, so I'm easily reached. On Twitter, I'm Stuart Hamblin. And I also have a website specifically for my Fitsit. I was just going to Fitsit lessons called fitsitclasses.com. Fitsitclasses.com. Yeah. And if anybody has any questions, they're always free to send me an email or a message. I'll do what I can to get back to them. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I'll make sure that all these links are available in the YouTube description so that people who are interested can reach out to you, Stuart.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Neelam. It's been lovely chatting to you.
It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Stuart.
Bye.